Welcome back. This is episode 4 of our interview series. We started with the name Uncertainty Hour. We've adjusted it now to call it the Armchair Attorney because that's kind of a little bit more clear about what we do. We're so excited to be here today. I love talking to people in supply chain. I love talking to entrepreneurs. So far, our guest list has been pretty eclectic. We had the judge, we had the doctor, we had the pastor, we had the professional wrestler. Now we have the entrepreneur. But before we bring in Jorie Myers, I want to talk about a couple of things in the news. And of course, get some of your hellos. So, Tammy, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Andrea, thank you. It's good to have you here. And of course, my good buddy, Trey Griggs. Trey, if you haven't gotten Jorie on your program yet, I urge you to do that. This is a special message for you, Trey Griggs. Now, a couple of things that happened over the weekend. Now, I grew up in a little city called Vernon Hills, northern suburbs of Chicago, not too far from Highland Park. I worked in Glencoe at the Chicago Botanic Gardens every summer. I drove Route 41 near Lake Forest. I lived in downtown Chicago. I've worked on the south side of Chicago. Once again, we have a mass shooting. It is absolutely horrifying to see these things and to read these things. We had that tragedy in Texas not that long ago. Every year, there's about 30 to 40,000 people that die from firearms in the United States. And when these people are in these incidents, most of the time they die from suicide. It's very rare to have mass shootings, but it seems we're nowhere closer to having them gone. I won't talk much more about that mass tragedy today, other than to say that I am so horrified and have so much sympathy for the ones who have lost people. I am a different person when it comes to Second Amendment. For those who followed me, I've done a couple of things on the Second Amendment. I, to this day, do not believe the Second Amendment applies to the states. That wasn't until 2010 in the case of McDonald v. City of Chicago. We won't get into firearm regulation very much today. That's not really a topic for this conversation, but I wanted to say something before I move on to the next topic. We also had the Supreme Court deny the writ of certiorari in the case of AB 5. AB 5 was the law in the state of California that has said, essentially, if you are an independent contractor and you're held out that way, the state doesn't believe it. The state is going to have a presumption that the independent contractor is an employee. There's a test, an 1, 2, 3 or ABC test, that kind of talks about the levels of control that individual has. Again, AB 5 is a symptom of a broader problem we have in this country of how hard it is to be a truck driver, how hard it is to make a good living operating over the road. Finally, the last piece I want to talk about is the discussions today going on in the negotiation between the longshoremen and the Pacific Maritime Association. That contract with the union expired on July 1st, but the work continues, and it will likely continue to continue. The last time the longshoremen went on a strike, and that was back, I believe, in the 60s, was over 130 days, and it ended up being that they were not successful. The fight of the longshoremen today rests on two primary things: wages and automation. Automation's fascinating. The idea you can take something and have robots do it. We've been looking at making technology continually advance, and these trends and forces are not likely to stop anytime soon. I like to think that automation is the juggernaut. You can't stop it. You can only slow it down. Now, without further ado, I am so excited to welcome my guest, Jorie Myers. He'll be here in just a moment. I have to thank my dear friend, Lauren Began. Lauren was kind enough to introduce me to Jorie a couple of weeks ago, and I was able to join Jorie's program, which we'll talk about here in a moment. And I am so excited to meet this young man who has multiple businesses and a very interesting and growing social media presence. Without further ado, let me add my friend, Jorie Myers. Jorie, how are you?
Brother, I'm extremely blessed. Thank you so much for the time today, sir.
I am excited to meet with you. So I first met you, as I mentioned, with Lauren a couple of weeks ago, and it was about this program that you had called the Transportation and Logistics Clubhouse. What is the Transportation and Logistics Clubhouse?
All right. So essentially, well, again, thank you so much for having me on today. I truly appreciate it. And Lauren, if you're listening, I truly appreciate you being clutch and introducing me to Matthew a few weeks ago. So the Transportation and Logistics Clubhouse came to be because I was finding a way to transition from corporate America to becoming an entrepreneur. And, it's because COVID had hit. And as someone that was running the dispatch department for the corporation, I saw some pretty good drivers. I had some exceptional drivers that I was dispatching for. They were terminated. They were terminated because people were a little afraid. They didn't know what the pandemic was going to do. And, with them being terminated, it made me say, well, I'm looking to build my family, my then girlfriend, now wife. I was like, I need to be able to ensure that my money doesn't stop. And with that being said, I needed to learn how to create income for myself. I was very comfortable living within a structure, that provided me opportunities for income. So with that being said, I was introduced to the application Clubhouse. And when I was initially getting on it, I saw that they had all of these groups for the arts, people who were, in movies, that were songwriters, and it didn't have anything that I was currently interested in or involved with, which was transportation and logistics. So me creating that group was essentially so that I could learn how to make money in that profession. And it kind of ballooned from there. It was very slow, humble beginnings. At first, it was just myself and my then girlfriend just in there asking each other questions. But
That's awesome.
eventually, I did get some of the traction that I needed from some marquee folks that are in the logistics industry, and it's kind of grown organically since then.
Well, I love that. Like when I first got in there, Grace Sharkey was one of the people that had been on the Clubhouse, and I
Grace.
absolutely love Grace. I met Grace in person when we did a symposium at my old law college at Michigan State, and we had her come in from FreightWaves. And what I love about supply chain, you've kind of touched on here, is that supply chain is everything, but no one really thinks about it. The product and how that product gets to you, whether it's to the shelf or to your doorstep, those two things are completely inseparable. And when you started off with the Clubhouse stuff, how many people are part of your Clubhouse now?
Now we are north of 25,000 members.
That's incredible. That's
Yes,
incredible.
sir.
What I see from you is very similar, and I mean this in the best way possible, to what Craig Fuller did with FreightWaves. There was this massive appetite for people to understand how things get to you. And most people didn't care because it was before COVID, it was just there. The entire supply chain had always been just in time. It was there when you needed it, and when you didn't, it wasn't there. But when you actually needed it, people started to wonder, why is it that there's a container ship sitting outside of the port of Long Beach for 100 days? And you have started off with this knowing that there was a group of people that existed that wanted to understand supply chain more. What have you been most surprised with in your time with growing the Clubhouse?
Well, I would say that one, there were so many people interested in taking control of their destinies. For the most part, people were comfortable working their corporate jobs. But during the pandemic, people really took hold of their ability to generate income for their families. So, the people who were a part of my organization, my group, who are still part of the group, they were transitioning to that entrepreneurial spirit themselves. So to see the growth is the most surprising thing. To talk with someone who, like myself, was not involved entrepreneurially at one point, and now they are living their best life. It's pretty nice, and it's just those type of stories that I continuously highlight. And at this point, the club is not only to highlight folks for what they're doing right, but also to let folks who are also interested in doing what they're doing, the ways in which they can do it, and maybe avoid some of those pitfalls. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I like it. It reminds me kind of what Adam Wingfield does with his consulting business of how to help people become more profitable or more productive with what they do. I have to share a comment here from my good friend, Abby Haffenbredel. I will say that the best German pronunciation I can. Jorie Myers is the man. Yes, Abby, I tend to agree with that. We are having a great time. We have Samantha Jones from Arc Best. I'm a huge fan of Samantha. So besides the Clubhouse, how many episodes have you done at this point? How many have you produced?
I think that we're probably in the 50s now.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
we're in the 50s, maybe even more. I mean, well, definitely more episodes that have gone on, but only 50 that have been recorded. But yeah, we're well in the 50s at this point. So
Absolutely.
we're growing. We're loving it. Some of those individuals that you mentioned, they have been some of my esteemed guests. So shout out to Abby, shout out to Adam, shout out to Grace. These are people who are very, very appreciated in my world. So thank you.
Well, the thing I love about what just with this very short list of comments so far. I mean, I also have, Andrea here. Jorie Myers, love that understanding of your mission. Here's what I love about what we're learning just in this very short conversation so far. This is an industry based on relationships. This is an industry based on do you have integrity? Because you can't buy integrity. You can have it and you can use it, but you can't purchase it or sell it. And I just love seeing your growth and this community that is pushing you further because I think you have a great voice and an incredible mission, which leads me to my next question. Atlanta Dispatch LLC. Tell me about this business. Tell me about its origin and what you do day to day.
All right, so this is my baby. Oh, I love Atlanta Dispatch. Anybody that hears me talk about this organization, they can feel and see the passion. And it is based on the skill sets that I picked up working for that corporation, where I learned how to dispatch trucks of I was dispatching dry vans, so 13 semis on a daily basis. And I found out through Clubhouse, through the Transportation and Logistics Clubhouse, that being an independent dispatch agency was something that, people were out here doing and doing, quite well at. So it was my transition. That was what I decided to make my formal transition from corporate America to me being, self-employed. And, at this point, Atlanta Dispatch is a connection maker. We leverage all of the relationships that we've been so fortunate enough to build and match them with capacity, demand with the people who can actually meet that demand. So I'm playing matchmaker at this point, and
That's awesome.
I love it.
So are you brokering freight or are you mostly dispatching? What is the exact role that Atlanta Dispatch serves for your clients?
Yes. So I am a dispatch service. So there are those organizations that went through and got the surety 75,000 surety bond, and the paid the $300 for their MC authority. I am a dispatch service, whereas everything that I do is on behalf of the trucker, on behalf of the owner operator or the fleet owner. So I'm really just allowing, or I'm letting folks borrow my connections.
There you go. You can rent them. You can't buy them. You can rent them.
You can rent them. These things are, they're made through time, over time, and just overall being a solid person. So, I'm happy to help in any way I can.
Are you mostly in the full truckload space? Are you in dry vans? Are you in temperature control? Are you in straight trucks? What's your sweet spot?
Gotcha. So my sweet spot, I would say, is the dry van, and but here's the thing. I started my company dispatching box trucks. Dispatching box trucks is near and dear to my heart. So if there's anybody who's interested in becoming a dispatcher, I always tell them to start by dispatching box trucks, because you're gonna be put through the ringer.
Yeah, that's right. The lift gate's not working. What do I do?
Yeah, it's so many things that you have to learn in this industry to become very fluent in the language, in the jargon, and you got to get used to hearing no. And as someone that dispatches a box truck, you're going to hear no so much that it's not even going to matter. Okay, what's the next opportunity? It's just you're just taking everything in stride at that point. Exactly. So I would say that I did grow a substantial portion of my business on using box trucks. But now with the connections and the people that I have on my side, on my team, it's drayage, it's refrigerated, it's dry van, it's consistent, it's dedicated. So all of these opportunities are there for individuals. If they're interested.
When did you start the Atlanta Dispatch?
January 2021. So we're over a year, and business is doing pretty good.
It's the thing. Like my father was 40 years old when he quit his job and started his own company. And what he knew was how to maintain things. He knew how to continually maintain Class 8 trailers and Class 8 trucks. That was his thing. He knew. And for 25 years, he ran that business. And it's a different type of person that wants to be an entrepreneur, the ones who want to take that sacrifice. So here you are, global pandemic. You have the Clubhouse. Clubhouse come first, or did Atlanta Dispatch come first?
Clubhouse came first.
So you got Clubhouse going. You have an audience that's growing. You say, well, what was the next step to say, I should start a dispatching company? What was that, the natural goal that you had all along? Or is this something you kind of said, okay, I think I could do this now that I've got my feet wet in this space?
Again, I just needed to know how to make money outside of an institution.
Yeah.
And being exposed to people who were so willing to share, what they had gone through gave me the insights to say, I can do this, and it wasn't my first time at entrepreneurship. I did have a stint where my brother and I, we owned a company. We were based out of Dubai. We were doing military contract work,
Really?
So it wasn't my first, stint, but it was the first thing that I owned, so.
Okay. Now I got to go. What is this military contract? Explain to me, if you can, what it was that you were doing with your company with your brother.
So that was my first exposure to logistics.
Okay.
So back in 2012, we opened the company. Back in 2012, I was actually in Afghanistan, so never going back to Afghanistan. I was not in the military, but I have a crazy amount of respect after that situation to say what our servicemen and women have to do. And, I tip my hat to all of them. But yeah, I was in Afghanistan, and it kind of gave me the exposure to logistics. And then, most of the time if somebody going to Afghanistan, they have to take a stop in Dubai to catch the flight. My brother, happened to make a lot of connections out there, and we started a company that we did service military contract work, and it came in the form of logistics. But if there was a battalion that was coming in and they needed cell phones, or they needed rental cars, or bidding on opportunities to ship servicemen and women their belongings from where they are to over there. So that was my first little bit of exposure.
That's fascinating. I mean, there's these quotes that I've heard years and years, like, amateurs talk about strategy, professionals talk about logistics. And that's a quote by a general. I can't remember which general it was. Someone maybe in the comments can correct me, but you learn logistics in the UK, in the military. That there's so many use cases in how you move human beings and supplies. That's incredible that you did that. You saw the problem, you understood the need, and you and your brother solved it with starting a company. And then you learned a lot about logistics. And so what made you stay with it? Because the ongoing joke I have with everybody is like, once you touch logistics, like you never get to leave, like you're stuck here. So what got you so excited about continuing in the path of logistics?
Well, I did return back stateside, and, I got another opportunity in fleet management for, a pretty nice company. And then I made a transition to get my analytical skills up. I'll say that, but it was very stuffy environment, very, very stuffy. And, I think that naturally, once I found an opportunity in logistics, it felt like I could breathe, something that was a little bit me being natural. So that's why I love, and I tell anybody and everybody at this point, I went to college. I love Georgia State University. Shout out to them. Go Panthers. With that being said, though, not everybody has to go to college to do what I'm doing. And, not everyone has to go to college to succeed in supply chain. So, it's just you find your niche. Everything is interrelated. So if you're hungry about getting the knowledge, I just tell people to stay at it.
Oh, I love that. We got some comments. I'm going to show them on the screen here right now. We have one comment here. Love this. Insights like Mr. Myers are valuable for an end-to-end understanding of the supply chain. I couldn't agree more. The thing that I've learned about supply chain more than anything is that you have to understand the other people that are doing it. Like I learned the maintenance space, but the dispatching, the brokering, the finding of the assets, all of these things are stuff that I never really had much connection to. And we talked before the program began. You're a second generation transportation guy. Tell me a little bit about that experience. Like what you learned about trucking early on.
Right. Yeah, I was definitely that kid that used to be riding. I used to ride in my stepfather's truck. He was an over the road driver. So some of my fond memories from childhood was, being in that truck, being in the sleeper, having that Velcro to close it and tear it open. You know what I mean? So like those are things that were very foundational for me. And yeah, I mean, I love that guy, and he definitely made a way for my family in transportation. So I think it's only fitting that I'm here doing this right now. Maybe I'll make his life a little bit easier sometime soon.
I love that in the sense that kids love trucks. Like my oldest son now he's 9, but I remember when he was like 4 or 5 and bringing him down to Bedford Park, Illinois to our big warehouse for repairing trucks. And I would have him sit in our yard truck, our spotters, a 1997 Ottawa. And the smile on his face when he got to sit behind a massive piece of machinery, it was just amazing. And it's so great that you talked a little bit about like this career path, not necessarily needing a college degree. I love that this supply chain, the trucking, the mechanics, the warehouse, the dock workers, you can have a good life doing this stuff. It's not easy. It's not easy, but you can take care of a family. These are skills that transcend so many things. Does your stepfather still drive?
He does. He has a nice, cushy situation. He drives flatbed. He moves shingles all day in the South Georgia, well, South Atlanta area. So no, he's good.
That's awesome. I mean, my dad was my grandfather. I never met him. He passed away before I was born, but he used to haul grain for farmers in central Illinois. And then after World War II, he got polio, was paralyzed from the waist down, and he couldn't drive anymore. So he became a mechanic. And that's how my father, at the age of like 7 or 8, was climbing around trucks and tractors fixing them because his dad couldn't do it anymore. And so my father learned this skill set of fixing things. And then he eventually went to Northern Illinois University and got a degree and got into maintenance. And he started working night shifts for Roadway back in 1976. So like trucking is in my blood. And I think it's in your blood too. But I think most people watching, most Americans, you do know trucking. It's the most common job in like 37 states. So you don't get to opt out of the supply chain. The more you know about how retail and technology and transportation are all kind of the same thing, the better off I think we all are. Now, I want to know, what is Humblebee Enterprises?
Humblebee came before anything else. And although I say that Atlanta Dispatch was my first, me working for myself, Humblebee's always been there. Humblebee is essentially is an ode to who I feel like I am. Life has humbled your boy. Okay.
Yeah.
Life has humbled me, and I'm okay with that, because it allows me to, pull from a different, the compassion I have and, just the grace I've been extended. That's who I am at this point. And, I'm very, very, very happy about that. And, a B is just someone, part of a greater thing, and we're all working for the greater good of everything. So I'm Humblebee. That was my initial. We are a military contract company. So all those government solicitations, I'm there. We're Hub Zone certified, we're DBE certified, MBE certified. So all of the contracts that are going around here in the Atlanta area or even nationwide, those are things that we go after to, kind of partner up with Atlanta Dispatch with our network of transportation companies to meet some of those needs that, are on the horizon.
That's incredible. Okay, so you have 3 things. Are there other things that I'm not covering that you're running? So you have Atlanta Dispatch, you have the Clubhouse, and you have Humblebee. Are there in the couple of minutes you have left in free time during the day? What else are you doing?
Oh man, the biggest thing, the thing that we haven't even talked about, which I'll also say congratulations to you. I'm expecting my first child. So
Yeah. Yes.
so
Oh,
I'm excited about
when's
that,
the
man.
date?
I'm
When's the
so
date?
excited. 11/11.
Armistice Day or Veterans Day. 11/11.
11/11. So expecting a baby boy. Very excited.
Oh my goodness. I left the job that I had to do what this thing is, Armchair Attorney. And within the first couple of days, we learned my wife and I were expecting. So I knocked up my coworker, and that caused some friction. It caused some friction. Then we found out that it's not just one, it's twins. And our due date is December 3rd, but it'll likely be in November because we can't go the full term. Mm-hmm. I will tell you, the best job I've ever had is being a dad. Mm. It's the best. And the next Father's Day, you will have your own little man. Oh my goodness. Yes, Abby, we're excited. We are excited.
Very excited. Very excited.
Oh my goodness. What are you looking forward to the most? The sleepless nights?
If I'm thinking about it, the initial skin to skin.
Yeah.
I can't imagine anything being like that. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
I remember when my oldest was born, we were downtown Chicago. We were living in Woodridge. We had to drive to the hospital. And after he was born, like this, I love this story because he was supposed to be born naturally, and he wasn't. He was taking a long time. He started going into some like trouble. So they wanted to do an emergency C-section. So my wife and the doctors all leave to go to the surgery room, and I'm waiting in the room, waiting. And 45 minutes pass. And a sanitation worker, janitor, comes in and starts cleaning the room. I'm like, I thought someone was supposed to get me. And they said, oh, we'll check. And they brought me down to the room. And it was before Michael was born. And we did the C-section. And I was the first one to hold him. And his little hand wrapped around my finger. And I said, it is so nice to meet you, Michael. Oh my goodness. We got some great congrats. Being a father is the hardest, most rewarding responsibility we could ever take on. Monty, 100% right, man. 100% right.
I agree.
And he's got the congratulations. It is the best blessing to be a father. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited for you, Jorie. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. And congratulations to you and your wife as well.
Thank you. We got Samantha bonding those first few weeks. Newborns cannot see well. They rely on their other senses to bond with their parents until they are a few weeks old. They can start making out faces. Oh, absolutely, Samantha. This is something I want to talk about now, as being a father. This is the greatest thing in the world. Is your stepfather and your mother excited to have a grandchild? Is it the first, or are there other grandchildren so far?
Oh, so no, they're excited to have my child, but no, I'm an uncle about 15 times over.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I've been preparing for the role for quite some time.
I remember when my oldest was born, I took 3 days off of work. And I was working for my father at the time in repair and maintenance. And he calls me and says, Matthew, when are you coming back to the office? And I said, well, we just had a baby. He's like, your wife had a baby. When are you coming back to the office? Like, I think I'm coming back Monday. He's like, yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right. I would, as much as you can, I urge to take as much time as you can, man. I wish I would have spent more time with them very early on. It just wasn't possible at the time, but man, it was an experience.
I definitely thank God every single day for, giving me the courage to make that transition when I did, because now I am in a spot where I can, kind of create my own schedule. And I do feel as though we're going to have a nice little pocket around that time because,
absolutely.
I don't, once it's gone, it's gone. So
yeah,
I want to be a present father from day one.
Oh man. What you've been able to do in the time that you've started your own companies and become your own, revenue source for yourself, you've opted out of the matrix. Like, this is something that so many people dream about doing. Is there any kind of advice you'd give to people about like who are thinking, man, maybe I should do my own thing, maybe I shouldn't? How did you overcome that imposter syndrome or that fear that this might not work?
So, first, I am a Christian, and I know that through Christ, I can do anything.
That's right.
I can do anything I want as long as, it's in a good place. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
So, having that foundational knowledge and overcoming some of that imposter syndrome myself, because I told you I had that stint in entrepreneurship, and Dubai lasted, but obviously I came back to America. So, there could have been some things. And I used to see that experience as something that I failed at. And also, I had another thing where I wanted to do kind of like brokering, but in a different way. And I used to think that I expended so much energy towards that, and it didn't come to fruition the way that I would have liked to. But what I realized is those aren't failures. Those are things that I can draw experience from, and kind of giving me the energy that I need to get to the next level now. So if somebody's out there and they're interested in doing something, I just say put one foot in front of the other and just keep going. Go at whatever pace you need to go, but continuously work towards it. And you're going to look up, and you might even like take a look back and say, oh man, what happens if I continue to go? Is it going to give me what I need, what I want, what I'm looking for? And I would say the answer is going to be yes, it is. You just got to keep on, concentrating on putting that foot in front of the other.
Absolutely. We have two book recommendations, but before I get to those books, there's some people in the comments are recommending some books for you, but I'll show you in a second. But I love that you're a Christian. I am a Christian too. I was baptized as a Catholic, as a baby when I was very young, but I got baptized again this year. And it was one of the most remarkable experiences of my life, because my children, my boys, my little men were in the audience. And I'm always reminded of the baptism of Jesus. When Jesus comes to John and says, I want to be baptized. And John's like, dude, I'm not going to, I can't do that. And Jesus said, no, you need to do it for me. And when he does, and Jesus is baptized, God speaks and says, this is my beloved son with whom I am well pleased. And there is no greater joy. And I know you will have this someday soon, when your child is able to tell you how proud they are of you, and you can tell them how proud you are of them. Now, some book recommendations. Monty King recommends Raising a Modern Day Knight. Jorie, I will send you an ISBN for this book. It has changed the way I look at fatherhood. It is an amazing, amazing book. And our good buddy Samantha has a recommendation, How to Really Love Your Child. I have not read this book, so I don't know if I've truly loved my children yet, but I will find out. But I'll make sure these are comments are going to be on the LinkedIn page, and I'll make sure to send them to you. And we got Lauren Began chiming in, one foot in front of the other. Lauren, thank you for introducing me to Jorie. I love this man. He is phenomenal, phenomenal. So let's give a quick little story about how I met you. So it was, I don't know what day it was. It was a late afternoon, and I get a call from Lauren. She says, Matt, I want to introduce you to Jorie. I go, why? He's like, I was going to be on his program, but I am very sick. I cannot do it. And I said, all right, I love Lauren, whatever I can do to help her. So you and I sat on a call, and we talked for probably like a half hour or an hour, just kind of seeing what it was like. And what I loved about our conversation was both of us were like, yeah. And Lauren's chiming in. Yes, she's saying she had COVID. Yes, Lauren, I didn't want to say you had COVID, but yes, Lauren had COVID, and she couldn't go on this show. And we were talking, and I said, is this what God wants us to do? Like, is this there are no accidents. There are no accidents.
Right.
And you had to figure out within like 30 minutes of talking to me, like, is this guy a maniac? Is he a regular person? What was it like? I mean, is that a fair recitation of how we met?
Definitely. But again, Lauren, providing the recommendation and introducing us, I knew it was going to be a certain, caliber just because of who Lauren is. And then having the conversation and just hearing the passion that you had for the industry, what you had going on yourself, it was a no-brainer. The conversation was really about what we were going to talk about.
That's right.
Yeah, that's all that was.
I think we're going to like International Road Check Week. I think we were talking a little bit about that.
It was, so thankfully it came, that subject was just prevalent and pertinent in that moment. So yeah, it was great.
There's another comment here from Lauren. Yes, I knew you guys would get along. Well, what I want to urge, and I got another quote here from Lauren, divine intervention. Yeah, I think it probably was. I think it was. What I would say is this. You can never overestimate the value of a warm introduction. If you're talking with somebody, you say, do you know this person? And you say, yes, I'd love to make that introduction. For everybody listening and watching and consuming what we're talking about, if you can help somebody, do it. If you can make an introduction, do it. This is the thing about everything. It's relationship driven. And I am so blessed to have people like Lauren in my life who can say, hey, I can't do it, but I'd love to tap you in for something like this. And this is the nature of the supply chain. It's the nature of everything. It's everything's about relationships. And it's just it's very exciting that we're able to meet that way and then continue this conversation in the different formats that we have over the last, 4 or 5 months.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Now, when are you going to start doing live shows? Because that's what I want you to do. I love Clubhouse. I think it's phenomenal, but the audience needs more, Jorie. The audience needs more. Have you been thinking about this?
Checking out your growth. I might be leaning towards doing the live session with the video. Clubhouse gave everybody the comfort of being able to do their own thing in their own living room, and all you had to do was have the audio. But the way that media is being consumed, I do think that people do like that additional piece, which is the video. To see the expression in people's face, to see if it's a lot of stuff that you can't pick up unless you see folks. So
this is why I was always I started with LinkedIn. That was the only social media that I used. And then I kind of realized, just like drivers multi-home, like a driver will drive for Uber, they'll drive for Lyft, and a taxi kind of side. Audiences do the same thing. There are some people that are just not going to come to LinkedIn to watch anything. They want to watch it on YouTube, or they want to watch it on TikTok, or they want to watch it on Twitter. And so I was like, okay, it's time for me to get Twitter. And I did it. And I helped, Lauren and I both did Twitter around the same time. And I started saying, okay, I can put the same kind of content up there. And it was just trying to figure out, how do I take one thing that I make and I can push it to other places, meet the customer or the audience where they want to meet me. And so I found it to be interesting. It's not really hard juggling all the different things. That's the biggest challenge for me so far.
As of right now, it is just Clubhouse for me. So it's not as much to juggle, but I do see the benefits, I do have Instagram accounts for all of the things that I'm involved with, but, my wife, for instance, she really only consumes media on Twitter.
Really?
So there is a demographic that I'm not really hitting with that social media. But if there are people who are out there listening, LinkedIn is the move at this day and age, at this point in our career. If you're wanting to meet the decision makers, they're on LinkedIn. Okay,
that's right. I mean, I think I read somewhere that LinkedIn, all the people that participate, less than 2% will comment or engage or post. And so there's this massive audience that's just sitting there waiting to have some level of content. And I think you're right. I think that's where a lot of people are kind of gravitating towards. I talked with Trey Griggs and Chris Jolly to start off with. It's like, how do I do this? How do I make videos? And they're like, because I was doing my iPhone and I would upload it and that'd be the end of it. And they're like, no, use this thing called StreamYard. And so I get StreamYard, I learn about this, and it's just more software to get. Okay, Samantha's mentioning that Adam Wingfield has an Instagram Live. I have never done Instagram. Do you have to, is it Facebook driven? How does Instagram even work? You can teach me about this.
Instagram is driven by your followers. I mean, it is owned by Facebook, but that's not how that started. So it is a social media, whereas, people get to post content in the form of photos, videos, and just depending on who's following you, those are the people who see it in whatever algorithm Instagram uses these days. But just the same way that you're able to go live on LinkedIn, you can do that exact same thing using Instagram. Whereas it also gives you the ability to save the content or save whatever live stream you did and post it to your profile. So people have been leveraging it for different reasons. So, but Adam is unique. Okay. So Adam has, he's shown himself to be someone who can provide value. So a lot of people look to Adam for advice, and he's just one that knows how to articulate that advice too. This guy's sharp. He's
Absolutely.
one of the smartest people in this industry you could meet. So shout out to Adam. I just went to his course. He had a course on this past Saturday, so I was there in attendance. So I appreciate you for all that information you provided, brother. But yeah, so he's put himself in a spot where he is a thought leader and influencer.
I love the egalitarian nature of supply chain, because I'm with you. Adam posts some amazing content on LinkedIn, where I typically see him, or if he goes on like someone's program, I like to watch him there. I might have to do Instagram. Is that where he does most of his communication, is on Instagram, you think?
Well, I think he's one of the folks that are letting people know that maybe you should be transitioning from Instagram over to LinkedIn.
Okay, good. I don't want to do any more work. That's what I'm trying to figure out. How can I limit the amount of stuff that I have to do? We have a comment here from Trey. I'm going to put this up here real quick. And it says, being a parent is the most incredible experience. Invest your time and treasure with no guarantees of anything in return. And it's just amazing how much you can love another human being. I couldn't agree with that more. I'd like to say my kids taught me how to be patient, but I'm still not quite there yet. But I do say that I am very, very blessed to have them in my life. All right. So we talk about, what about TikTok? Have you thought about that one? Has that one ever crossed your mind? I don't know about this.
No, I haven't. Like I said, I have the nieces and nephews who are professionals at this point on TikTok, but I never crossed that line, just because, when I created the Transportation and Logistics Clubhouse, it wasn't to be, catchy or to be the person in front of everything. I really wanted to get the value out there, get the information to the community so that they can make better, more informed decisions. So when it came to, in my very humble opinion, at the age I'm at, TikTok was more the trendy situation. So I'm like you, I didn't want to do additional work.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was. Like, I don't want to learn something new. What? So with Clubhouse, like, when I downloaded the app, right, and it actually used my Twitter credentials. So somehow there's an integration with Twitter and Clubhouse, so that there is a way to go through one platform. How do people find you? Because I love what you put together. How do people get on Clubhouse? What do they need to do to be able to watch the stuff or listen to the stuff that you're producing?
Right. So, if they're interested in getting on the app, just go to your app store, type in Clubhouse. It's going to say Clubhouse Audio app. Download it. My name is Jorie, Jorie. So you just put that in the search filter for the person, and that'll be me. And if you're interested in joining the Transportation and Logistics Clubhouse, you can just search for that as a group. If you put transportation, it's probably the first thing that's going to pop up these days. So, I'm grateful. But yeah, even if you do become a member, the whole point is you can leverage the group yourself. You don't have to wait for me to create content or interview somebody. You can start a room yourself underneath the Transportation and Logistics Clubhouse. You can title it whatever you want. And if that's a part in the transportation and logistics industry that you're trying to grow in, people who are in that, they'll generally join, and you can just ask them questions. So that's the beauty. We've curated a membership of people who are willing to share, the game.
And what I like about this is it's totally free. And you have already built up an audience of 25,000 people, that whether they're drivers or brokers or experts in the space. So I look at, for a while, I was trying to find Reddit, like subreddits that had supply chain focused, and there wasn't a ton. Like, there's a few that are on the mechanical space or some in logistics, not a ton, but what you've put together, this is a work of passion. Like, is it only you who do this, but does your wife help you, or what? How does the division of labor work for this?
This is me singularly. This is all love. And it's a lot of work too. But again, I think that you get out of something what you put in. So it has been one of love. So I think I've received that from people. It's really just us connecting on a human level. This is what I got going on. I would love to be able to, meet you or interact with you in this capacity. And if this is something you're also interested in, what's up?
There you go.
That's where we are.
I
Just
love that.
being humans.
I started off making like the video content because I was thinking to myself, like, I have no videos of my father at my age, like like what my dad was like in his mid 30s or late 20s. If I look like I'm not, I'm 37. But like I wanted to say, like, what was he like? And I have no idea. And my kids, like, they have grown up in a world where they like Fortnite and Minecraft and they watch YouTubers. And I was like, is there a way that I could capture myself temporarily in these videos or these in these podcasts, whatever else that I do? And that's what's been so instructive for me, because like I make this stuff and there are people that watch, people that consume it and they find value, but I look and go, like, this is really like in 20 years when my kids actually care about what I do. Because right now it's in between dad playing Minecraft Dungeons with them. But that's kind of one of the things I wanted to do. This was that there's a way today with technology to save who you are and what you're like and who you know and how you think. And hopefully it won't be turned into like a robot AI version of ourselves, because it might.
A lot of, that stuff follows what goes on in the movies. It really comes to life. So I don't know, but I do think that's a great idea. I think that we've spoken about this in a certain way before. I don't have that of my, my grandparents, my father and all that kind of good stuff. Like, so I think that that's nice to be able to forward think of the things that your kids might want,
Well, I look for like for your son, like he'll get to listen to the body of work that you have produced because you wanted to. Like, the thing about like this stuff that we do, this is art. This is art. There's a part of it that's business oriented or whatever else, but if I'm totally wrong, tell me, but you're an artist. You are an artist who has created the thing to produce the content that you want. You bring on the people that you want and you have the conversations that you want. And it's incredible and it's a gift and it's very hard to do. And I don't know, do you ever think about it? Like, this is an art that you're doing?
I haven't until you said it just now. Again, the whole point was to just create content that was, able to add some value to someone in their journey. So that's kind of like what I've seen it as this entire time. When I think of artists, I'm married to a singer. So she's an artist.
Wow.
She creates music, she sings,
Absolutely.
she performs. You know what I mean? So that's what I would have naturally thought. So you giving me that I appreciate that.
I mean it 100% correctly, that this is an art. This is performance. This is a level of improv. Public speaking is one of the greatest fears of most Americans. And you do it because you enjoy it. Like, this is, or all the different reasons why we do the things that we do. But
I used to fear it. So, you got to lean into your fears if you're trying to grow.
I'm the same way. When I was a kid, I had a speech impediment. I had a stutter. And then I also had vocal nodules. So I had really raspy voice. So it took me speech therapy for many, many years to kind of overcome this speech challenge. And that forcing you to face the thing that you're worst at and then turn that into your strength, that is hard work and it's enjoyable. And once you do it enough times, like, there's those butterflies right before it happens. And it's like running a race. Okay, we're just going to run the race and it's going to be over in a little bit.
Correct. I
That's
agree.
phenomenal, man.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
All right. So tell me, as we wrap up our conversation today, where can people find you?
Okay. So you can go to my website, which is www.atlantadispatch.org. Or you can find me on social medias at Atlanta Dispatch, at Transportation and Logistics Club. Oh, Transportation and Logistics. Don't put the clubhouse on that. And, I think those are the most part. Those are the places that you can find me. And if you're interested in any of the content from my podcast, you can go to transportationandlogistics club, transportation and logistics.club, spelled all the way out.
Awesome, man. Well, I got one last comment here from Trey Griggs. Live shows rock. Audience interaction is so awesome. The nice thing about the audience interaction is that I can choose which ones come up and which ones don't. So I can curate that thing to a certain extent. But I just want to say, like, it has been an absolute pleasure getting to know you. It has been so much fun watching you grow your voice and your brand and what you're trying to accomplish with all of the different things that you do. I urge, and I'll make a follow-up post after this is all done after a couple days, but everyone should follow you. Everyone should understand what it is that you're doing. They should. Every one of you should follow our good friend Jorie. Trey will contact you. He sent something in the comments here. He wants to have you on his program. Absolutely. I think that'd be a phenomenal thing. I want your voice more in transportation. We know that this industry is essential. You can't replace it. You can't substitute it. You can offshore manufacturing. You can't offshore what we do. You have to bring it on a truck. So as we wrap up today's call, is there anything else you want to end with before we wrap it up, Jorie?
Yeah, let me just say, Matthew, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you again for having the, just the faith that this could be something that could go beyond our initial conversation. I truly appreciate it. Just want to say to the people who are watching, again, you get one go around, and in 50 years or 50 years after working, I'd hope that you put 50 years into building what you wanted versus, somebody else's situation. Pour into yourself and believe in yourself. Again, through Christ, you can do everything, because that's exactly where I am right now. And if my child happens to see this,
yes,
Daddy loves you.
Oh, that no better way to end this. Everyone who's watched us, thank you so much. We're going to wrap it up for today. We'll have more in the future. As always, thank you for tuning in.